Hey everybody, it's Brad from Johnson Small Engines, better known as the one-handed mechanic. If I can do it, you can too. Today we have here a Troy-Bilt 2410. This is a 2000 series Troy-Bilt snow thrower, and today, in my opinion, I want to show you how to service the machine. A few things to start. There is no air filters in snow throwers, so you don't have to worry about changing the air filter out, wondering about where it's at. There is no dust when you're blowing snow. There's no dirt when you're blowing snow, so you don't have to worry about an air filter. I haven't seen any machines in my area that actually have air filters. They just don't put them on the machines. The other thing is the fuel filter. I have seen a few on occasions come through with fuel filters in line. I'll put a link in the description below on a very skinny fuel filter that actually blocks the fuel flow on some of them. And it's not on all of them. They did it, I think, a couple years, and some of them didn't. Most of them, there is a filter inside the fuel tank that you do not need to change out. Sometimes you can get a flashlight in there and you can see inside to see how dirty or clean it is. Okay, so the first thing I would do when servicing your machine, if you're gonna do this in the springtime and service it, you're gonna make sure you check your gas if you left gas in it, and if it looks orange or yellow, you want to suck that out, usually with a turkey baster. That's what I use. You can just suck it out almost dry, and then you can drain your carburetor, flush that out, start fresh, just to make sure that it's going to be running properly. And if it isn't running properly, which means if you start up your machine, you're going to put it on choke to start it, and then if you're doing this in the springtime, it'll be a lot warmer outside, but when it runs fine, it should run when the choke is in the run position. If you're compensating by leaving the choke up a few clicks like this, it's not running correctly and your carburetor is in need of repair. So after warm up, this should run perfectly fine in the run position without the choke on. So just keep that in mind. If you're compensating by having a choke halfway on and it runs fine at half choke, you have a carburetor issue. We're going to go ahead and start by changing the oil, and I will show all the tools at the end of the video that I'm using in this video. So to drain the oil drain is down here, and it is a 10mm wrench or socket to take that off, and then they give you a nice little square right here. That's if you need to put a wrench in there to hold it there and then loosen it there. Most of the time they'll come off. Just going to go ahead and crack this loose like that. And it's a very long bolt that comes out of here. Now, it's going to make a mess right here. I wish they would have made this a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take like a 6x6 block. I'm going to pick the front end up, push this block underneath it, and just lay it like that. I'm just using a old antifreeze container to catch the oil. Before you drain this, now you can do this cold, or you can warm up the engine first and it'll come out a lot quicker. And to make it come out a little bit faster, you loosen up your dipstick. You just pop it out, let it sit on top, and that'll let air go in, which will allow your oil to come out a little bit faster. We're going to go ahead and pull the plug. You're probably wondering how many hours or how often you should change the oil. I would say if it gets dark like this, it's time to change it. And I don't go by hours normally, I just go by how it looks. But yeah, I mean, once a year, depending on how much snow you get. I use a full synthetic oil, 5W30. You might have to look in your manual to find out, but all snowblowers nowadays are using 5W30. I let this sit for about 15 minutes. You're going to have a little dribble on here. Sometimes I'll put a piece of plastic from a quart jug that I cut out and then have it come out a little bit, and then just let it sit there so it drains, so it doesn't make a mess. This one was right on the verge of just dribbling all over everything. Going to go ahead and put the drain plug back in. There is no need for any kind of a thread sealer. These seal just fine. There's a washer on that, so don't lose your washer. Just so you know, there is a washer on the end of that bolt right here. That is definitely needed. Snug it up. Make sure your engine is sitting level when you put the oil in and checking the oil. Normally the machines have a sticker on here that tells you what oil that you take, but this one takes 5W30. You can check it out in your owner's manual. Put about a half a quart in. I'm using full synthetic. All right, so that's about half a quart. We're going to give that some time to settle so we're not getting a false reading from the dipstick tube. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to change your spark plug real quick. Your spark plug wire is here, and then you have a boot that is connected to the spark plug. Try not to pull on the wire itself because it can come out of the boot. You just want to grab the boot itself, wiggle and pull. Sometimes it's a little tricky. Get a pair of pliers. It actually is much easier. Get that out of your way. 13/16 socket. This is a deep socket. This is actually a spark plug socket. I put an extension on it. Normally, all these spark plugs that are original are going to be a China brand. This is not original. This is actually an AC Delco. We had this in here because it wouldn't run. This spark plug is actually brand new. I'm going to go ahead and, I'm not sure if this probably cross references over to what was in here, but I'm actually not going to take a chance. I know 100% that an NGK BPR60S is the equivalent of what was in here, and I've been using it for a long time. You have to make sure that you check your air gap. This should be between 28 and 30 thousandths. If you use your socket to put this back in, sometimes it can be a little hard to line it up straight. This is actually a spark plug installer, and I've had it for 25 plus years. I don't even know if you can get the exact same one anymore, but I'll try to find a link to put it in the description if you guys want to get one of these. You're just going to put the spark plug end, and you can use a piece of fuel line if you have it. There's a crush washer on the spark plug. In a brand new spark plug, what I do instead of torquing them down is I'll go about 3/4 after I feel that washer seat into the engine head. So we're going to line it up straight, push it in, start screwing it in, and you'll feel it get snug. Once it gets snug, stop, and then you're going to put your wrench on it. And then you just need to compress that crush washer, and usually it's about, now this is going in a little bit more. Once you feel it get snug, okay, now it got snug, you're gonna go 1/4, 1/2, about 3/4, and snug it up. We're seated good. I'm gonna go ahead and click it on. You'll feel it click in there, and now we have the spark plug in there. Let's go ahead and check our engine oil. Most of these dipstick tubes and dipsticks have a little quirk, which I don't like. They have 2 little nubs in here, and then there's one on the other side. And if you put them in backwards on your dipstick, you can actually get stuck. I don't know why they just don't put 1 on each side or 2 on each side and make it easy. Line them up, 1/4 turn, 1/4 turn back out. We are not even reading. That was a 1/2 quart, so that was probably a 1/4 quart in there. I know it's not going to take a full quart, so just be careful you don't overfill it, because then you'll be draining it. Okay, so we're going to let that set up so we can check it in a minute. We're going to go ahead and do tire pressure. By looking at this right here, you're going to say, well, it looks fine, tire pressure is fine. Well, believe it or not, these are very hard compound tires. Most tires that I check, they have no air in them or very few PSI. And a lot of people complain that their machines won't push very easily, and they're wondering, oh, is there a neutral? There really isn't a neutral. You can try to put this is your gears. We have 2 reverse and we have 5, 6 speeds forward. And you can try putting it like in the center, but normally it's gonna wanna lock into one of them. And these will push real hard if your tires are low, but there is no neutral. You know, they just roll. Okay, anybody who has an air compressor for doing your car tires, a small handheld air compressor will work perfect. Even a pump for a bicycle if you have one, but always check your tire pressure. As soon as you pull it out from storage from the year before, I'm sure all your tires are going to be low. I'm just using compressed air. Let's go ahead and check it. You can buy, I'll put this in the link in the description below. It's a nice digital gauge. Just put it on PSI. Actually, it's not even showing up. There is actually no air in here. Pushing the valve stem in right here. So this one has no air. It looks like it actually has air in it. And then if you want to know how much air goes in your tire, usually the edge of the tire will show you maximum inflation. And this one here says, let's see, maximum inflation, 22 PSI maximum inflation right there. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put in 20. And if you have a driveway that's hilly, you may wanna leave it lower. because it'll give you better traction if it's a steep driveway. Okay, that's 14.6. So it actually had no air in it. And you might want to come back to this. There's 19.2. Okay, there's 20.8. I'm going to leave it at that. And I would come back to this a day later and just double check it. And you're going to notice how easy these will actually push after you put air in the tires. Check the left side here. Actually, no air again. Just got a little quieter. My heater just stopped. Okay, 20.6. We're going to leave it at that. Tires are done. Let's go ahead and double check the oil again. Okay, so that is right at the bottom of the top dot, which is perfect. As far as storing the gas that's in here, like if you put it away in the wintertime, your last tank of gas, if you're using pump gas, one thing you want to try to avoid is ethanol. Unfortunately, in our area, we have ethanol in the gas, and I highly recommend in our area to stop using pump gas. Or when you do get pump gas, make sure you're using fuel stabilizer. I use a Stable 360 Marine, and you just have to make sure you read the directions. Stabilizer does work, but if you over-stabilize your gas, and you only stabilize your gas one time, all right, if you over-stabilize it, you can cause more harm than it's worth. The fuel lines will deteriorate. If you want to avoid all the problems with gasoline, buy yourself some Aspen 4. I highly recommend this. It's 92 octane. There's no ethanol in it. You can have it shipped to you, and you will not have the problems at all anymore with any kind of carburetor issues. This will stay fresh up to 5 years in the container, and it will stay fresh up to 2 years in the machine. This is an alkylate fuel. It's better for the environment. It burns much cleaner, better for your machine, and you won't have any more carburetor problems, and you won't have to worry about storing it. It's just a great product, and I highly recommend it. If you only use your pull cord, you want to check to make sure that your pull cord is not getting thin as far as getting worn out by just pulling it. And if you have pulled it a ton, that might mean that you have other problems with it running. But you can take off these recoils assembly and rewind them. I think I have a how to rewind one of these recoils if you need to. I'll put it in the link in the description below. This is the electric starter. You just want to make sure that it works. Plug it in, hit the button, make sure it's spinning, make sure it's working. Try not to go over thickness of the extension cord any thinner than this. You want to stay with this thickness or more. That's like a 16 gauge wire when you're checking the starter out. I'm going to go ahead and put this up on the bench so we can check underneath on our drive cover, on our auger belt and transmission drive belt, and I'm also going to show you how to get underneath the transmission. And you can do this on the ground, but not a problem. You just need, all you need is a couple 6x6 blocks, something at least 6 inches tall, so you can put the tires up on it. You just pick up the back end. A lot of guys will tip these things forward and work on them that way. I don't like to tip an engine that far forward, especially if you have oil and gas in it. You're gonna make a mess. Why do you have to get rid of all the stuff that's in your engine just to tip this up on its nose? So I don't recommend it. That's just me. You can do what you want, but I will put this up on 6x up on the bench so we can get a better view so you guys can see it, but you can do it on the ground. It's not that hard to do it on the ground. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this up in the air so we can see it a little bit better, and we'll be right back. Okay, so here's a belt cover for your auger belt and transmission belt. I'm just gonna go ahead, pretty sure it's a 10 millimeter or 3/8. There's one on the other side. Okay, so when you take this cover off, it's very tough sometimes right here. So just make sure your chute is sitting, like it's not all the way over. Okay, so this is a newer style, and I really like the fact that they put in this metal guard, and as you can see, it's got dust from the belt wearing right here, and that's going through, you know, when you go through some heavy snow, you just have to make sure when you're blowing snow, just blow snow, just when you're in the heavy snow, just go slowly, and you must make sure that you have your belt adjusted properly, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. But this guide here is nice to have. I don't think you can adapt it to a new cover, but if your cover starts to wear right on the outside edge right here, but inside behind this, where this one, if you don't have this, and it starts to wear bad, you may want to replace your cover, because believe it or not, this cover needs to be on. It helps as a belt guide for your auger belt right here, and it keeps the belt from rubbing and actually keeps the augers from spinning. A lot of people comment where they adjusted the belt tension and the augers were spinning. And the reason why the augers were spinning is because their cover wasn't on. And you just basically want to look at your belt, make sure it's not cracked. It's a little bit hard to see, but you just want to follow it down around. If it's not cracked, it's looking pretty good. And if it doesn't, you don't want the belt to sit really low in the V pulley. If it sits extremely low in the V pulley and you may have ran out of adjustment, you need a new belt. It's stretched and it wore. The transmission drive belt is behind it right here. It's usually a smaller one. This belt here is normally a 1/2 inch belt, and this belt here is normally 3/8. I've actually seen even smaller belts over the transmission drive. They normally don't wear out much at all. I do have videos on how to replace these belts. I'll put them in the link in the description below. It may not be the exact same machine, but it's the same process. So these belts look good. You can spin the pulley, make sure it doesn't have loud noise. This one here is a little bit more tricky to get to. Normally try to put a screwdriver down in here to pry that away from the belt tension, and then you can spin it. And just make sure they're not loud. This one feels fine. You will also need to check your auger pulley just to make sure it's not loose. And there's an arrow right there that shows you where you're going to look for that. You'll see it, it's big, and you'll have a little, either an Allen head or a square bolt that you can tighten. So now we're going to take off the transmission cover, and I would suggest using 6x6 blocks. And the reason why you want to use at least 6x6 is because when you drop this pan down, it actually has hinges back there, makes it easy to get unhinged. There's 1, 2 here, 3, 4 bolts, or there's 6. Sometimes there can be 6 bolts depending on how old the machine is. Should be a 3/8 socket to take these off. And also, before I take this off, this is the sticker that you're going to get a lot of your information from if you need to go online. This is a newer style, which is nice. They give you all the numbers that you need for your shear pin, your auger belt, drive belt, and the model number here is a 31B SBN 2711 if you need to go to a parts breakdown for anything else. But this is nice. A lot of you guys won't have this. You'll just have this sticker here, and you just want to take your model number to the internet and you'll be able to look up parts for it. You want to go ahead and take these off. Now this one only has 4 bolts holding it in, and you need to kind of put your fingers in a gap and peel it down because there's a little lip here that comes down, and you have to kind of wiggle and jiggle it, and it'll come down. It'll give a little bit of spring tension, but you can flex it to bring it down and out. Now to get it down off of these hinges, you have to go all the way down and then slide it out. That was very easy, but if you don't have the wheels up in the air, it's not. As you can see all the way back in here, there's a groove that'll go up into. So you have to make sure that you put it back in the groove, and then it'll slide up, and then you lock it in when you put it back together again. But as you can see, it's kind of like a little 90-degree right there where you have to make sure it goes up in a groove. Now this is, for some reason, I'm not sure when the factory sends the machines out, I've always come across, if the pan has never been off, so this one has never been off, these rubber bands hold something. And I don't know if it's in shipping, but the rubber bands are there to hold something, and then they eventually just break away when you use it, I guess. But yeah, it's, I've seen this on all the ones that have never been opened before. Okay, so under here, what you're looking for is just to make sure that your rubber drive disc right here, make sure this is not cracked or worn all the way down to the metal. Okay, and this one is not. And also the drive disc itself here, this drive disc is going to be spinning when the engine's running. And then when you push your handle, which is up here, self-propelled handle drive comes down on this one here, goes down on here to this spring, which in turn pulls this drive disc back onto the rubber disc, and that's what makes your transmission drive. So it is important that you have this cover on because you don't want to get this wet. I never understood a rubber drive disc against a metal wheel, and if it gets wet, it's going to slip, and you don't want that. If you see grooves in your aluminum right here, this is where the rubber drive disc runs. If you have black, a lot of black, that means that it was working pretty hard and it's wearing on your rubber disc. You can take some Scotch-Brite pads with some cleaner. This one is looking pretty good. And then the other thing, okay, you do need to worry about how much grease is on this shaft. This is a hex shaft, and your drive disc will move left and right, and that's how you get your forward and reverse speeds. So if your handle up top is sticky, and you can't seem to smoothly go into 1 through 6. Now that's without your hand on the lever. You should be able to do this without any pressing on any levers. Just shift your shift knob from 1st to 6. It should shift smoothly and shift smoothly back to reverse. If this doesn't happen, you may have too much accumulation of grease, and they tell you to use anti-seize, so keep that in mind. But just a little bit will do. Okay, so I'm going to shift this from forward to reverse, which basically is I'm going to go forward gears and reverse gears, and then underneath you're going to see this drive disc move left and right. So I'm going to go into the forward gears and then to the rearward gears. You see how it's moving left and right? That's how it should move, and it should move freely. If it doesn't move freely, then you have problems. Most of the time it's because there's too much grease in there. And then look to make sure that all your gears look good. This one actually has a nice plastic coating over the shaft so it doesn't rust. There is a spring right here. This is a return spring which allows the metal drive disc to stay away from the rubber drive disc when you're not pushing down on the shift levers, and it allows you to push the machine in a neutral position. Make sure that it's not broken. If it is broken, you'll need to replace it. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, mark it, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I cleaned it up. We're going to go ahead and slide it back in the grooves. Once you get it in the grooves right there, then you're going to go ahead and you have to kind of push this in, and you have to get in between here, but this has to go underneath the lip right here, and I just get it to where it started, and I go pop it in. Once I see that the threads are lined up there, I'm going to start them by hand. Okay, so while I have it up in the air, I just want to show you, this is the adjustment for your transmission drive for your wheels. I particularly don't care for this setup. It's always too tight. I want to put it down on the ground and we'll show you how to adjust all this, but you don't want to have too much tension on your drive wheels or you'll really ruin that rubber drive disc in there by just putting too much pressure on it. These come from the factory most of the time too tight, my opinion. This is in the lowest adjustment it can go, and in fact, I would rather like to see a little more play. Once you go up here and you press down your drive handle, you're going to feel the tension, and just imagine that you're putting so much pressure on that rubber disc to go against the drive disc that's run by the engine. You don't need all that tension, and you can wear it out if you adjust this too tight, so keep that in mind. This one over here is your auger tension, and we're going to go ahead and adjust that now. This feels really loose, and the auger tension is a little bit different. As far as adjusting these though, there's 2 bolts here and there's 2 bolts here. This one here, it's really strange how they have these set up, but this lower one here is your adjuster. This one here, there's actually an air gap. There's a shoulder on this one, and that one does not have to turn. So if I loosen up this one, again, it should be 3/8 or 10 millimeter. If I loosen this one up, I should be able to move that. Okay, you don't have to tighten this one up. Now the other one is just the opposite. The other one here is there's a shoulder bolt here, and this is the one that you actually tension. A lot of people will strip these out, and it's a little bit tricky to get these. You have to put inserts, thread inserts back into the machine to get them to work again. But just keep this in mind. Look for the little teeny gap. There's a shoulder bolt on one of them. There's a shoulder bolt on this one here. So as you can see, this one keeps, for the drive tension, it wants to keep bouncing back up. I'm going to leave it at the lowest setting, and it's going to be plenty. Snug that up. This one here, like I said, the one over here is the adjuster on top now. You only have to loosen this one up. And this should move, like so. And we're going to go ahead and adjust that once we get down on the ground. Just going to tighten up for now. I just wanted to show you while we're up here. This is a fine adjustment for forward and reverse. You can adjust this. I actually don't have a video on that yet. When I have one come in that has issues, we'll go ahead and adjust this. But if you don't have reverse, you can adjust this up and down. It will help you get reverse and your forward gears a little bit better. Most of the time from the factory, they come okay. Okay, so before I put the belt cover back on again, we're going to go put this on the ground and show you how to adjust the auger belt tension. I'm now going to show you how to adjust the auger belt tension. I go by this spring right here. This is the spring tension when you push your handle down, and I'm gonna do it up here. I'm gonna push the handle down slowly, and then you're gonna look at your spring. And once that spring starts to spring out and the belt starts to stop tension, as you can see that belt tension now, the pulley doesn't move much at all. Now that's about where the tension should be, but look at my handle. The handle is almost all the way down, and I would rather have it starting to have the belt stop way up there. So that means we need to tighten up the tension on the belt. So this is the adjuster right here, and as you can see, it's real loose right now. I'm gonna loosen that up, just the top one. Remember, the bottom one is the shoulder bolt. You don't have to loosen that one up at all. I'm gonna push it down a little bit. Don't go all the way. If you go all the way to the adjustment, there's a couple different reasons what might be happening is that your belt might be stretched a lot, and you may need to replace it at some point. Or if you over tension these, the augers will spin without the handle being down, and we don't want that. So it may take a couple times to get this adjusted. Okay, so now we're gonna check the spring out again. Once we see that spring start to get taut and see the belt stop moving, I'm gonna stop the handle right when that belt stopped moving. And we have a lot of spring tension now. Now the belt stopped moving and it got tight right around here. Now look at my handle. So that's where the belt is now tight, and it gives me this much of spring tension, and that's much better. I still think I would like to have a little more tension. So that's a little bit higher. That's perfect. Now the big thing is, if you over tensioned it, your augers will spin when you run the engine. But before you run the engine, you put the belt cover back on again, because it is a guide, and the guide helps keep this belt stay off this pulley. Easier way to put the belt cover back on again is to tension your auger belt, and that'll help you get the cover in here a little bit easier. So what I do is put the handle down, put a clamp on it. I'm going to go ahead and slide, because right here is where the belt will flop around right there, and it's easier to slide it in when the auger tension is tight. And these can get a little bit tricky. Some of them are easier than others. You're going to go ahead and install your hardware, and make sure you do not over tighten these two bolts, because you can crack your plastic on your housing here, and you don't want to do that. So just snug them up. Don't forget to take your clamp off your handle. That feels good now. Okay, so we want to make sure that the augers are not spinning after we adjusted it. So we're going to go ahead and start it up real quick. I'm not going to run it very long. I just want to make sure that it is not spinning when we start it. All right, so I have it. Handles are down now. Let go of the auger handle. Do that a couple times just to make sure that when you run them like it is now, let go of the handle, they should stop running. And that's perfect. Now, being up front here, I just want to show you there are shear pins. There's one here, there's one here, and there's one here. So there's 4 shear pins on this machine. Now the shear pins, they have a designated spot for them. I always like to put extra shear pins in for machines that don't have them, and you can just clip them in so you don't lose them. And you can, it's probably safer to keep them in your garage or whatever so you don't lose them, but this is what they're for, so we're just going to give them 2. I like to make sure they have them when they go out. Okay, so from there, what I do is I want to check the bottom skid plate, which is here. I'm going to tip this back so you guys can see it a little bit better. So this is the bottom skid plate. This skid plate here can be, actually, if it needs to be replaced, it can be replaced. I have a video on how to replace this, and I'll put it in the link in the description below. A lot of people don't like any residual snow on their asphalt when they're doing their driveway, and they let these things wear out. If they wear out too far, they wear out into the barrel, and trust me, I've seen them. And once you wear out into this barrel, this is your barrel. You're not going to replace this, it's going to cost too much money. So they give you side skid shoes right here, all right, and we can adjust these. These are plastic, they've gone away from the metal. I do like them because it's just easier to replace, probably a lot cheaper to replace too. We're gonna go ahead and put it back down on the ground. Get yourself a flashlight, You put it behind the machine, and then you look up front here, and you can see right here, you can see a little air gap. That's about what we want. But you want to see it all the way across. And I'm not seeing it all the way across. So without a flashlight, it's really hard to see, but as you can see when I'm putting a flashlight behind there, you see a little air gap. You want to have a little air gap when you're blowing snow so it doesn't wear out your skid plate. Let's go ahead and adjust the side skid shoes. And how I do that is I'm not sure exactly what the thickness of these pieces of steel are. I've had them for probably over 20 years now. And in fact, somebody said, oh, use a couple quarters. One thing you have to be on is perfectly flat ground, which is really hard to find. Even concrete is hard to find perfectly flat spots. But you want to put your very thin piece of metal, whatever you guys have, put them on one side, put one on the other side. I forget exactly the textbook as far as how thickness is supposed to be. I just like to make sure that there's just enough sunlight, flashlight you can see through there, sunlight, that'll give you a little bit of room so it doesn't wear out your skid plate. That's why we have side skid shoes. These are normally, on most machines, are 1/2 inch socket or 9/16. Loosen them up. You want to make sure these are loose, and you want to make sure they slide up and down. Okay, they have big adjusting slides in them, and you're going to press this as far down as you can go, and then we're going to go to the other side. And I just tap on them, and they usually go all the way down. The nice thing about these two, if this gets too worn down, you can flip them over. So you can use these double-sided. Now once you have them loose, you just firmly hold them down to the concrete. Tighten them up. Other side. Then I'm going to go ahead and slide it off my two plates. And now when I shine my flashlight, I should see an air gap all the way across. I see the air gap on this side, and we have the air gap on that side. So that's good. We're going to let it go at that. This is the Auger transmission drive. There are many different ways that they're actually producing these now. What I've seen, the latest is they pack this full of grease. And you can pull this plug and try to get a grease gun and squirt it inside there. But if it's grease packed, you shouldn't lose any grease. It's like a non-serviceable item in my eyes. The old school had 90-weight gear oil in it, and you have a plug on the side to check the gear oil and a plug on the top that you could actually remove, or just one plug in the center, and then you could fill through there with 90-weight gear oil. This one here, because I can see that this is going to be most likely grease, and even if you have the oil, you're going to have to find caps. I'm not sure if you can get them or not, but in my eyes, as long as these are not leaking, seeping, or anything, pretty much non-serviceable. You shouldn't have to worry about them too much. But you can get in your owner's manual also to just check to see exactly what you have. This one here is pretty much grease filled, and we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead, since we are in here, the last thing I do is, one, I check to make sure that all the shear pins are intact. And all you need to do is go back and forth with the augers by hand, and if they spin all the way around, then normally that means that one of them are sheared, or if you're missing any, make sure you replace them. And then back here is this is what throws it out. Make sure that it's actually spinning correctly with the shaft right here. All right, and it is. Last thing I do is I'll get some silicone spray, and before any machine goes out the door, it is sprayed with silicone, and this really does help from wet snow sticking inside your augers. Any kind of snow really, but it's just good to do right before you use your machine. When it's clean, go ahead and hit it up, put it up inside your chute, especially where it throws it out right down in there. Just a couple little pointers. This is the plastic key, and when they come, usually you get one or two of these, and they'll be zip tied somewhere. I will drill a hole in the center of them, and as you can see, I used a recoil rope to wrap it around the handle so it does not get lost. So in case of any time that this extra pops out, it won't get lost in the snow. Not that it happens very often, but it's just nice to have that. As far as how this chute turns, All right, we have a little rubber grommet here, and I'll hit that with some silicone spray. And I see this come in a lot of times where this is actually cocked at an angle because somebody has tightened up the handle and they tighten this up and this is cocked at an angle. Well, for this to move freely, you need to have this exactly in line where it'll come through nice and easy. So if you need to, use a pair of vice grips, clamp it here, and then tighten this up. And then spray this with a little bit of silicone, and that makes it easy. All the way down here where it connects to your chute, this is a very basic setup, and a lot of times these will actually not work very well. They should go all the way one way and stop, and go all the way the other way and stop. And for some reason, if they don't work exactly like this, there is a nut on the bottom here and a nut here. You can loosen these up and you can move this in or out just a little bit to get it to seat properly inside of the threads right there. Not too tight and not too far out. If they're too far out, this won't move correctly. So that's pretty much how you adjust that. And then this guy here has a pretty simple, it's just a wing nut that tightens this up. And it looks like this is spinning freely. Oh, here it goes. Okay. You can see that this was spinning freely, and it's because this was not in its notch. It looks like it has to be set up inside that notch right there. It looks like it's going to be a... We'll see how this looks here. It's like a carriage bolt. All right, so yeah, so it's a very large carriage bolt is what that is. And it has a big slot to go in, like that. All right, there it is. It should sit flush like this. And that was not sitting flush. And then you just tighten this up enough to you can do this by hand, but it'll stay when the snow is being blown out of there. That's pretty good. And you just use your hand back here. If you need to, you can always tighten this one up a little bit, but that's not a knob on there. That's just a locking nut. We're good to go there. Okay, so as far as putting this away at the end of winter, everybody has their own ways of storing their equipment. There are many different ways to do it. If you start using the Aspen 4 or if you're using non-ethanol fuel, that helps a lot. Anything coming out of gas pumps, I don't like, so I try to use the Aspen 4 and everything. But as far as what I do is I normally just leave a full tank of gas and make sure either if you're using the non-ethanol fuel, you can go ahead and put the fuel stabilizer in it just to help out, or you can drain your whole tank out and then you have to drain your carburetor bowl, or you run it dry, which it takes a long time. If you have to, get your turkey baster out and suck all the fuel out of it. Run it dry, and then you come around to the other side right here. Underneath where the carburetor is, this is your bowl, and the bowl has 2 bolts on it. The bolt on the bottom is just to keep the bowl on. You don't want to take that one out. The bolt on the side is the one that you can drain your carburetor bowl to empty, and this is the way you can store your machine during the summertime when not in use. As long as your gas tank is empty, you can drain the bowl out and leave your machine totally empty. You can do this, and yes, a lot of times it'll work out just fine. I would highly recommend pulling your machine out at least a month before the winter time, getting it full of gas. If you're using Aspen 4, you don't have to worry about it. You can leave gas in there all year round, but get it out, get your gas in there, run your machine at least 3 to 4 weeks before we have snow, and you will not have these issues that everybody has when they get their machine out 5 minutes before it's going to snow. Okay, so the tools that we use today: a couple big blocks, at least 6 inches to get your tires up off the ground, 5W30. You know, as long as you're changing your oil, I'm just using this as a different bottle, but I put 5W30 in it from bigger container. 5W30 full synthetic is what this took. This is a container that you can, I just use a empty antifreeze container, or this might have been actually an oil container. 1/4 inch ratchet that I always use, an electric ratchet. This is a spark plug helper installer. It's just basically rubber, and it really does help line up the spark plugs. If I find something, I'll put it in the link in the description below. Also, this is a tire gauge. This is an electronic tire gauge. This is a digital tire gauge, works great. It's cheap. I'll put that in the link in the description below. This is my air chuck, but if you guys have a portable air compressor, something small, tire pump, small tire pump, that'll work just fine for putting air in the tires. The spark plug that was used today, I used the NGK product. I like them, the BPR6ES. You can take the spark plug out of your machine, go to the internet, and you can cross-reference that to anything you'd like. I don't like the China brand to come with the machines. I just like what I like, and it's just my opinion. 10mm wrench, 10mm socket, 3/8 socket, 1/2-inch socket. The shear pins here are MTD, but it's actually Stanley bought them out. So you put this number in your computer, you can find them all over the place. I'll put a link for, I think, a pack of 10 that you can find at Amazon. I'll put that in the link in the description below. Part number 73804124A. Pair of pliers to help to get the spark plug boot out. This is a spark plug gapper, and the line I have it set on, because I use this so much, is 30 thousandths. But between 28 and 30 thousandths on most spark plugs for snow throwers. You can check your manual if needed. This is just a 3/8 ratchet we used. 13/16 deep socket. I have an extension on it for pulling the spark plug out. This is a flashlight. Obviously you're gonna need a flashlight. Regular slot head screwdriver. These are just the plates. If I can find out the dimensions that the book says as far as leaving the air gap, I just suggest just leave a small air gap so that plate is not rubbing the ground. Silicone spray at the end before you go out and blow snow. The Aspen 4, can't say enough about it. It's a great product. You will stop having carburetor problems. You will no need to even drain your gas at the end of the season. You can just leave that in all year round. Just make sure you pull your machine out and run it before the snow gets there. And then this is a good stable marine grade stabilizer that you can put into regular gas if you need to out of the gas pumps. And then a clamp to hold the handles down. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up for how to service and maintain your Troy-Bilt Storm 2410. I hope this helps you out. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe, share my channel with your friends, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.